I observed through the mirrors of other women is that desire to control. It's just like breaking you down because the one thing you are not doing is controlling anything.
Welcome to Letting Go with Grace. I'm Dr. Tasha.
And I'm Porcha. We're family.
We want to share our relationship with you. This is a safe space where no topic's off limits. We're successful, ambitious women wrapped in Black girl magic, and we're on a mission to have it all. Love, peace, and the freedom to be authentic.
We let go of control and judgment, learning to give ourselves grace as we implement biblical principles to do life God's way.
So, Porcha, you ready?
I'm ready. What about you? Are you ready?
Ready to let go. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Letting Go with Grace. I am your host, Dr. Tasha.
And I am Porcha. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
All right. So I don't know about you, Porcha, but I have been on the struggle bus this week.
The struggle is real. The struggle is real.
So we're just going to hop into this episode and see where it takes us.
Yes, let's do that.
All right. So what is going on with you?
Girl. Goodness, where does the whole conversation begin? I don't even know where to start. That's how much stuff is happening over here. You know, I think, and maybe be a good place for us to start is like changing in the seasons and adjusting and adapting to new seasons in life. I think that's been the biggest deal for me with the finalizing my divorce and trying to get into a comfortable space, grappling with the my son living with his dad and my little girl living with me, and just the trying to get through life and trying to figure out how to live in this new space has been really the focus for this week. I will say this though, that there is still a sense of peace. There's a sense of finality. I'll say last week, and it's so crazy. Like for the beginning of the week, I was so highly emotional. I felt like every emotion that I have ever had, I was like wearing on the outside of me. I was just highly emotional, tears and crying, and it's just like, why are you so emotional? And Friday, May the 12th, was the day that I got my final decree. That was kind of like, it's finished. And I've used the analogy. I used it with my daughter just last night. I said, my faucet turned off. And she said, your faucet turned off. I said, for some reason, the culmination of that situation, like I could feel a rest in my spirit, if that makes sense. Like there was a wrestling that was happening that I probably wasn't acknowledging, to be honest. But there was just this, and it wasn't anything that I was trying to do, or it wasn't like I said this prayer to God, like, God, just make this finish. It was just kind of a resting. Like I knew that chapter had closed. And it's almost like my emotions, my spirit riled up at the end, like it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. That's how I see it now. Just because of how highly emotional I was. And there was no reason, but there was reasons for me to be that highly emotional. But I could tell after looking back at my journal entries and kind of how I was responding, that my body was responding to an end of a thing, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then when I got the email, which is so crazy. Like I just got an email. It was like, hey, here's your final documents. Everything's done. And you look and you like, that's like, I've been grueling over this for a year. Crazy thing. It was a year to the day. I filed May 12th of 2022, finalized May 12th of 2023. A year to the day. I was like, to the day, that exact. Um, but I do feel this, okay, that chapter's over. And the next push is, so where are we going? And I'm trying to sit still and not get ahead of myself. And to be honest, I feel like I did get ahead of myself a little bit in that week of emotion because I was so trying to get out of that uncomfortable space. I was just like, maybe I should do this. I need to go do that. I need to be doing this. I need, I need to get out of this uncomfortable space. What do I need to do? I still think that the choices I made were purposeful. Signing up for the life coaching program was a purposeful move. It was a move towards the future, So y'all be calling me Coach Porcha soon. Um, but it was a move towards my future. But it was definitely, I was like, there's something I need to be doing different than being in all these emotions. So, yeah.
No, and I think that that's perfect because what I find as a go getter, high achieving, ambitious, however you want to describe it, is that I'm always on the go. And I'm either on the go or I'm frustrated that life is not moving. And
Yeah.
not only that life is not moving, but it's not moving the way that I picture it should be moving, or about it's not moving within the story. Like I have created this story for my life,
There you go.
and right, and so I'm doing things to make the story happen, and then when life is lifing, and my story isn't coming together the way that I see it, I'm frustrated, and then out of my frustration, I'll start doing things again. Right. And so like I kind of find myself, I'm trying to like describe it. It's almost like, oh, like when you get stuck like in the mud or the snow, right? And so what is the first thing you want to do, right? You want to hit the gas and try to make yourself, but you digging yourself
But
deeper
deeper into the
in
mud.
the hole. Yes.
Hmm.
And that's how I feel a lot of the time. So this week, um, I was just like, why am I so frustrated? Like, why am I? Who wakes up frustrated? Like,
Right.
why? Ain't nothing even happened yet. Like, girl, you just open up your eyes.
It's
Can you say
just the
thank you,
morning.
Jesus?
My goodness. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I told you to wake up at 5, you chose that. Like, could nobody say you had to do that?
Right.
And so what I'm learning, and I knew this about myself, but for some reason this season and this week, it just sit different with me, right? Because all or nothing be belief
Mm-hmm.
that I have, right? It's this limiting belief about all or nothing.
Mm.
And it creates this all or nothing behavior,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And so what I wanted to talk about today, like what is our story? Like what are we telling ourselves? And then why do we keep finding ourselves feeling stuck? And then what we gonna do about it? Right. And so I'm awareness, right? I think that you cannot change anything you will not be honest about, right?
So true.
Any AA program, that's the first principle. Like, you just gotta be honest. And so part of my honesty journey this week, and it plays into a lot of areas of my life, um, is this all or nothing thinking, right? And so the belief was birthed in I need certainty,
Mm.
right? And so there's things that have happened in my life uh, that has given me a heightened need for safety and certainty. Like I need to know
Yeah.
what's gonna happen next. I need to know, like I gotta control that thing. Like I need to be able to predict what is gonna happen next. And
Mm-hmm.
what that creates is this rigid lifestyle, and either I am all or I am nothing. And I see it in even like weight loss, right? That's been a struggle for me, like all my life, right? Because it's the control of all or nothing, right? And so either I'm doing really well, And so I yo-yo, right? Because I'm following it, I'm working out, I'm doing really well. And then if I have an off day, the story that I tell myself about that off day, you know, in my job, in my career, like building the business, in my marriage, I start to tell myself, you failing, you're not doing, it's not good enough. You may not be good enough, right? And so my
Mm-hmm.
ability to secure certainty for myself, right, creates a story for me
Right.
that I'm not good enough. And so I just had to sit in it this week. Like, this is the narrative that is running every area of your life, and it's so rigid.
Mm.
It's so rigid. Like, it's like I'm walking on this tightrope,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just out, just always, is it the right decision? Is it the right, like, is that right? Is that right? Um, and I'm like, that's why you always so frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if that is your story, and that is the right, because it's the belief, right? The belief creates the emotion, and
Yes.
then the emotion fuels the behavior. And
Yes.
so I'm believing that it's not enough, which then downloads to me that somehow I'm inadequate, or right.
Oh my
And
God.
then I'm doing inadequate people stuff, right? Like, and
Yeah.
what ambitious
Usually
woman wants
next.
to be able to say that I don't feel worthy, or I feel inadequate? Because we put out pretty, like, our work is pretty good. Like, we do
Mm-hmm.
some good stuff. But what high achieving woman, career oriented woman, like, when you can see, we usually have pretty good things happening in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's hard to be able to sit in the truth of all of this, a lot of, not all, but a lot of these things, right, are produced on this performance of me trying to prove
Mm-hmm.
that I'm good enough,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm adequate enough, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm valid, right? And trying to create this system of safety for myself.
Man, that's so good. You made so many good points, and I'm sure that many of us women, including myself, I put myself in that box, can relate to that. Like, my biggest thing is security. I say it all the time. If I don't feel safe, if I don't feel secure, something on the inside of me just starts to run rampant. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and safety for me has always been there. The imposter syndrome, the am I good enough to be in the spaces that I'm currently dwelling? And why?
Yeah.
I ask God, like, why me? Like, why did you, like, all the people in the world that you could have brought out of this situation and placed in this seat? Like, what's up with me? Like, why did you choose me? Like, um, I'm not confident. There were times where I didn't think I was very smart. Uh, I felt like an average individual person. Like, I'm just a normal girl. It took a lot for me to recognize that God saw way more in me than I could ever see in myself. But I think the driver, the motivation behind pretty much anything I've ever achieved, whether it's a career, a family, all of those, the driver behind that was probably like a negative connotation, like the performance. I need to gain the approval and acceptance of people around me. I need to try um, to be who these people say that I am. The the blessing of that, because most people can't see the blessing. The blessing of it is that God has always surrounded me with people who had high expectations for me. So my pleasing or appeasing them was always this heightened level of performance. So God can be in anything, right? He can use whatever. And I notice now as I sit and think about it, how many people he put in my life that said, you can do this, you can do so much more. And the driver of pleasing those people actually produced a whole lot of things. Um, but the
Yes.
pleasing of people, not necessarily trusting my own decisions, really waiting for cues. Like somebody tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. If you tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, I can do it. But me having to sit in here and figure it out for myself, I don't know if I can do that. That's another thing for me. And I feel like probably if I had to pick like a theme of my true story, I feel like, and I'm thinking in my mind, the main thing is that imposter, just like not feeling like I'm in a space where I'm supposed to be in. And that driver um, has always been there. And so now that I'm here and we're acknowledging the fact that the imposter thing was always a problem, now I sit and I say, okay, then who are you? Because I really feel like my identity was lost long time. Like I just didn't know who I was, and I'm looking in every crack and crevice trying to figure out who I am. Uh, and so now, and this is the part, as we begin to acknowledge it, because this is what I'm noticing about the healing process. Once you recognize some of this stuff, it's almost like it's just sitting in your hands and you're like, okay, so I was people pleasing, I was motivated, I got where I am now, I accomplished a whole lot of stuff. Well, the motivator that pushed me here is now sitting front street. What do I do with the motivator that we're now calling a bad thing? Um, and we didn't call it a bad thing. I called it a bad thing. It's like the motivator that I'm calling a bad thing. This bad thing motivated me to this place, but now we're calling it out and we're saying it was probably not. There's a better way, another way to do this. It doesn't have to be this way. You can actually be healthy and whole and have your own identity and still be and still accomplish a lot and still be great and probably be better because you're working in your own identity and not in what other people see or don't see in you. But I want to talk about that space right in between where you're just kind of holding it in your hands and you're like, okay, can I stuff it back in? Because it's helped me a lot. It's just like, nah, we don't want to stuff it in. We want to give you an alternative. That's what I'll
Yes.
call it.
The alternative. Yes.
I want options. I want to bring that to the forefront because what I'm starting to notice, even in my career, corporate America, and mentor groups that I currently have, is that it's that all or nothing, like you're talking about, um, and the fact that when you go through this healing process, when people don't finish the process, like they see all this stuff and they don't do anything with it, it feels like just a whole bunch of wounds that you're carrying in your hand. And so if you don't do something, like if you don't give yourself an alternative or you don't know what to do with it once it's out here, I feel like it could really like drive. I really feel like a lot of people started this healing journey because they wanted life to be different, but then they got all of their stuff out and now they just claiming it. Just
Oh my
because I
God.
don't. You're like, I don't know what to do with it. I'm just gonna claim it. So yeah, I
It's
have
what's right
abandonment
in my
issues. There
hands.
you go. I got abandonment issues. I got neglect problems. I be getting rejected. And so now rather than finding your alternatives, you wearing them. You wearing what you found as badges.
Yes.
You placed them all over your body, like they were inside your body. Now they're on the outside. You place them all, and you can acknowledge the fact that yeah, I got abandonment. But it's like now you
Hold
just
on. Can I?
wearing
I
it.
don't want to because I want to. I want to put this part in there because then we start
Yeah,
telling other people, right? Like then we start saying we putting up boundaries, right? And then we be like, because because you're not gonna do that because that makes me feel rejected and
yeah.
that makes me feel abandoned. And so then we start giving it to other people as well. Like
That's what I'm
I'm
saying.
aware, I'm woke, I'm woke, and
Very
so let me.
Tasha, that's what I'm talking about. It's just like, yeah, because that's you just that's my anxiety. You just pull my anxiety out right there. That's my
Yeah,
anxiety. Oh, see, that
start
caused me.
claiming it.
That's my
Oh,
abandonment issue. You know
yes.
what? That's
Uh huh.
that you made me feel rejected just then, and it's So what I want, like the main thing is like recognizing that it's like not calling anything bad or good. And I'll tell the reason why it's important because I'm thinking about even myself as a performance driven woman. If I don't know what I'm doing with what I just heard, just the fact that I don't know what I'm doing will drive me insane. And then I'm like, why are we on this journey again? Why are you pointing out all this stuff? I'm fine. Do you see where I am? I'm good. God has brought me a mighty long way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
whatever
Dig
control
me up. We're going to
mechanisms,
bring God into it.
whatever control mechanisms I done used up until this point seem like it's been going well. I know my relationships is jacked up, but man, if you like out of all of the stuff, I think I'm doing okay. And so it's like now that you have what you see about you, what do you do now? Okay, like that. Like, is there are we saying there's a different way? Like, we're creating another pathway. You could do this now because you know better, so you can do better. And the whole this is a horrible thing when you see it. That's something that I judge me very
Yeah.
hard. So when I see what I have perceived as something negative, I want to get rid of it now. Abandonment issue, just the word. Oh, I ain't got no issue. Whatever the issue, I need to resolve the issue. We can't call it an issue for me because I'm a winner. I'm a winner. So whatever I'm going for, I'm gonna get. So I'm a winner. I need to get rid of abandonment because you said I got it. We need to get rid of it. How do we do
Yeah.
that? I'll press
What
in.
medicine do I need to take?
Tasha. I will press in and pray and what you say, journal. I can journal how many therapy sessions I need to go. I need 10 therapy sessions before. And in my mind, I'm thinking, girl, we don't even need 10. We need 5. All you need to do is press in the 5 and we good.
If you can do these 5, like do it like, with these 5, would you do everything that she
Everything. Listen and do exactly what she tell you to do. And you going to resolve this, girl, because you resolve things. Because that's you solution driven. You
That's who
going to
you
get
are.
you
Yeah.
gonna get it's gonna resolve because you're gonna do exactly what they tell you to do. And I'll tell you that mindset set me up for a couple of things. One,
Yeah. Because
I
you
don't
right back
trust
in the
me.
all or nothing. I want to call it like you right back in the all or nothing.
hmm I don't trust me. I don't trust my decisions. I don't, I don't think I can make the right choice. So I'm listening to everybody. And there's so many sounds out there. There's so many steps that it drives me. So it's like 5 ways to get, and I've heard that 10 times because I personally wouldn't watch 10 podcasts because somebody got the answer and somebody got the remedy. Who is it? And before you know it, I'm looking for an answer, steps that I can take. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not treating myself like a human anymore. I'm treating myself like a robot.
Yeah. You become part
And
of the of the empire. Like, let me fix this too. Yeah.
it's so crazy. I was in a group. I joined a group of women that are kind of going through some of the same things as me. A community that where we can kind of talk things out. And one of the themes was like this desire or need to have your hands on it and control as much as you can. Um, and what I observed, because you don't see yourself, right? I observed through the mirrors of other women is that desire to control. It's just like breaking you down because the one thing you are not doing is controlling anything, not what we want to control. We can control
Yeah. Yeah.
ourselves.
Absolutely.
The parts that we want to control, how you act, what you gonna do, how everybody else gonna like those parts we can't control. So we walk around irritated and frustrated and
Mm-hmm.
tight. And so the mirror, which was what I was looking at in the community, was that
I love that.
is that we walking around like, we walking around tense and tight and we have this thought that we're controlling all of these elements. The truth is we really are not controlling any of these elements that we think we're controlling. And as a result, I want to use the term dying, but I don't want people to take it as like dying, like death.
Mm-hmm.
Our
But the
our
death of the
lives,
story, the death of the story.
yeah. Because I know people like when you say death, they'd be like, I don't want to talk to you no more.
Yeah, death of the
There's lots
story.
of deaths. There's not just your physical death, and I feel like that's kind of what happens, the death of the story. Because the control is my expectation. Like this is what I want to happen, um, and releasing that. To release that is to put the story into oblivion, almost. Right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like taking your story and saying, ah, but then you like, but if I do that, this gonna happen. What about this? And this gonna happen. This gonna fall apart. Everybody gonna. In your mind, you telling yourself all this stuff is gonna happen, and the anxiety of the desire to of knowing that you're not in control but not feeling safe enough to release it. There's this
Mm-hmm.
anxiety that you sit in, this uncomfortable space where you wiggling in your chair because you know that this is heavy, but you feel like if you release it everything is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
That's the mirror that I saw in the community.
You said some okay because I don't want to. You said some a whole bunch of stuff and like automatically my head go into steps and practical tools to
Yeah, yeah,
use.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
But okay, dang, you said a whole bunch of good stuff. So keep the community thing because I want to come back to that. Like community, say that again. They
The
got the
mirror.
mirror. Yes, community is the mirror.
Yeah, community is the
Okay,
mirror.
okay. So I want to talk about that, but I want to go back to the beginning where you talked about once you become aware, right? And
Hmm.
that's the becoming, right? We all want to become like that's the tagline,
Girl, that's the
becoming the
thing.
best version of yourself, becoming authentic, right? uh in the first stage of becoming is the awareness, and I believe for a lot of people, and especially I just related to me being um, a goal oriented driven person, um, hearing those things, right? Once I'm honest with the story and I'm able to tell myself, like, oh my God, like, I don't feel safe a lot of the times, right? And we talk about maybe physical safety, but also emotionally, right? Emotionally, like, I need my life to be predictable and I need things to be consistent and I need people to be predictable and I need people to be consistent and I need things to be fair and I need some justice. And when I
Hmm.
don't have these things, right? And then, so I will create a world where I'm in control of, or is it fair, right? I need a world where I can create, like, is it predictable?
That is so
And
good.
when I can't predict things, right? Um, then I'm out of whack, and I go back to the okay, how can I control it? But I think the what I'm hearing you say is once we begin to see these things, once we start to become aware of like, oh my God, I don't feel safe, right? I don't feel like people like I feel like I'm giving more, and the scale is imbalanced, and I don't feel adequate, and I you know what, like now I'm a boss, but a lot of times I'm operating from a place of inadequacy. Like I'm creating
Hmm.
these things as if I gotta prove that I'm enough.
Hmm.
Um, and then once you talked about, then we wear it, like you said, then we put it on as badge, and then now we gotta create all of these boundaries, and right, we tell it people like I just think about my poor husband because that's who gets the brunt of my stuff, and
Poor
and,
man. Poor man.
and I'm thinking about my baby girl because yeah, they who get the brunt of my stuff because they be like Jesus. Uh, so then you create all of these rules about what you not gonna take it with. So the story, right? So you go from the story of operating subconsciously, right? Like I gotta create a safe space, and if I don't do it, and if I'm not this, and like if I get enough money or if I get enough prestige, enough influence, enough impact, I'll feel good enough, and then I'll be able to control things, right? And then I'll start expecting those things from other people, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm hearing a lot of like women talking about standards and don't lower your standards and dating and all of these things. But then I think what happens is we will place our story on other people, right? And so we will start telling people how they need to operate in our story. And
Yes.
so I think that that's the letting go with grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the hardest part for most people, myself included. It's just being aware and not doing anything about it,
Yeah.
right? That's the hard, right? Because we got to learn how to be.
Yes.
That's the authenticity, right? Because when I can just learn who I am and just be that without the performance, without the doing, right? So the grace is being able to say that, like, okay, this is what trauma, life, this is the narrative that has been created, and I've been playing a role in this story, and it's causing me pain. And then I think what happens is we get to a place where because again, right, these coping mechanisms keep us safe.
They
The
do.
way that we show up, they keep us safe, they keep us going, they, and so then we have, but I think life, so we take it from childhood, adolescence, now we young adults, and then then we get into this big age and these big relationships, and we taking all of these skills that we have, right, whether it's at work, whether it's with a partner, whatever. And then what happens is other people are like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me, like the way
Mm-mm.
you showing up, it's not gonna work. Or we aren't creating the things that we used to create with these coping mechanisms.
Yes.
And so that's the stuck.
That's
That's
the
when we
stuff.
feel stuck. That's when
Mm-hmm.
we begin feeling like imposters, right? That's when it's like, okay, everything that I've been doing is no longer working, or people aren't responding, telling me how great I am anymore,
Correct.
right?
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh my God, yes, I see the greatness in you, right? You mess around and get married, and your husband becomes a mirror, your community becomes a mirror, and they like, that's good, but that's how this come off, right?
Right.
And so we start judging ourselves, and then here comes the shame,
Whew.
right? And so the letting go with the grace is being able to let go of the story, but then
Mm.
allowing God's grace. God's grace is sufficient, right?
Correct.
And God's grace says no judgment.
No judgment.
Like
Mm.
God is saying, I'm not showing you this because I think you're inadequate. I'm
Amen.
not allowed giving you this set of awareness because I don't think you're good enough, right?
Right.
I need, right. And for me, being in this space and not doing anything, right? Just just sitting, not taking another class, not listening to another podcast,
Girl.
like not looking for the steps to get me out of here and just kind of
Yeah.
settling in it.
That's the hard
Um,
part. It's a hard thing to
and
do.
so, and I vacillate, right? But what I'm realizing this week is when I'm waking up frustrated, it's because I've gotten out of a place of grace and just being, right? In saying, um, in Nehemiah, as he is building the wall, like just all hell is breaking loose. Like they coming
Mm-hmm.
after him. They like, they like, no, he can't finish this assignment.
Right.
If y'all don't know the story of Nehemiah, y'all go read it. It's a really good story on leadership.
Yeah.
Um, but the one thing Nehemiah consistently did is he prayed and he followed the principle.
Mm.
So he prayed and then he got a principle. He prayed and, and I think that is part of being, because one, we have to trust God. And then let me say this because this just popped up. Because we do this relationship
Mm-hmm.
like we do these relationships. And if I
Mm-hmm.
don't trust nobody in these relationships, I
I
definitely don't
don't
trust
trust
God
God.
in his relationship. And I'm trying to control God too. Like, let me tell you what you probably need to do for me. If you would just A, B, C, D, and now I gotta add that. So now I gotta add two, but God too.
Yeah.
And
Tell
I
me
got,
what you want me to do.
if you could just tell me, right? I'm praying about it. Just tell me what to do. And he said, trust me. Trust that my grace is sufficient. Trust that everything that you have is everything that you need. Right. And so
Mm.
I like to call it the superpower because these
Okay.
skills that we develop in out of trauma or out of these circumstances, out of these stories, if we learn how to balance it, right? Because there's nothing wrong with being a person who wants things done right, right? There's nothing wrong with being a visionary. There's nothing wrong with like being able to be a problem solver.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the all or nothing that gets us, right?
I
But if
love
we
this.
learn how to balance it, right? I'm using it as a tool and not as who I am.
Mm. I love the way you just changed the perspective of trauma. Because when we hear trauma, well, when I hear trauma, it feels like something I need to eradicate.
Yes.
So, if for nothing else, when we discuss the letting go of a thing, if we can, I don't want to, I'm not saying, I don't think the word that I'm looking for is normalize, but change the perspective of what the trauma is. Because this is the one thing that we know. Everybody at some point in their life has dealt with some form of a trauma that has caused some form of a reaction. Most of the time, the trauma that you have incurred had absolutely nothing to do with you. It was just that you were a child, you was in a situation, things took place. I remember telling my therapist, there's nothing I can do to change what I went through. I cannot redo the fact that I didn't meet my dad till I was 40. I cannot redo any trauma that I got as far as abandonment, whatever. I can't redo it. So tell me, what do you want me to do about this stuff? Because I want to eradicate this. And what you just said is that the superpower is taking your experiences and learning how to balance those experiences up against new opportunities and new options, new neural pathways that says, I no longer have to respond in this way. I have a choice. Because up
Oh.
until this point, you didn't have a choice. You responded with what you had. And that's
Mm-hmm.
all you had.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first off, don't judge yourself. That's all you had. All you had was the experiences that and you came up with them as a kid. So listen, at 9 years old, I decided I wasn't getting in trouble no more. I had a 9 year old brain, and my 9 year old brain said, do everything everybody tells you to do so you'll never get in trouble again. I was
Mm-hmm.
9. Okay, that's when I learned how to people please at 9 because I ain't want no more whoopings. I was tired of that. I was 9. Give yourself some grace. Come on. Like, how was I supposed to know that that was going to set me up for people pleasing for the rest of my life? There's no way. But
Yes.
what you just said is your trauma is your superpower. Match that against the acknowledgement of what your trauma is and remove the negative connotation of your trauma. Balance it with an option. And now you become whole. But if
Yes.
you are constantly trying to eradicate your trauma, you are literally taking a part of yourself, your human being, and you trying to rip it off of you and throw it in the trash.
That's
And
yes.
I'm speaking to me.
Yes.
You trying to take all of this off of you. You trying to throw it in the trash, burn it, hide it. You don't want nobody to know. You don't even, it's a secret. That's a secret. That's my secret over here. I'm gonna burn it. Listen, you cannot remove a part of you. You're a whole human being.
Yes.
The being is accepting the fact that I'm flawed.
Yes.
I did the best I could with what I had. My options tell me that I have confidence. Confidence, options breed confidence because now you don't feel stuck anymore,
Options breed confidence. I love that. Yes.
right? Because I'm not stuck once I have options. You are not stuck when you have options. You can choose either way. Understand.
Yes. You can always operate from the old story.
You can choose whatever. You can choose. You can choose either way. It's not like we saying you better make sure that once you create this new neural pathway that you go that way. Don't ever. And this is what I told my mentor group the other day. Understand that life is a process. And even when you're creating a new neural pathway, think of it as building a street with new houses on it. And so you may turn that way, and look and be like, ain't nothing down there. The street to who you are authentically, all the stuff you got, your experiences, is just around the bend. You just might turn the corner and go back. But then you might be curious again and you go back down this new way. And you may walk a little bit further this time. Like, okay, okay, this ain't that bad. You might see something a little scary. Boom, you might turn back. But understand that there's this process of recreating. And once you have it, there's two ways you can go now. You're no longer stuck.
You are no longer.
And, and if you choose the trauma way, there's a turn there too.
Yes.
Well, you could go
So
to your
don't beat
other.
yourself up.
Don't
Yes.
beat your. There's a turn there. If I say, okay, I got these two ways, and I go down this way because it feels a little comfortable, and I get down that way, but like, wait a minute, this sounds too familiar. Like, the end of this is not good. And what do I do now? Boom. You still have your option, and you can choose your other option. I feel like that's where for me, that's what it is. I want to eradicate one option and just have this good one. I cannot take away my life. It's a part of who I am. So the superpower is the option. The confidence is the option. That's what
Yes.
it is. And that's
Yes.
what all of this letting go means. I don't have to
Yes.
change my streets. I'm just getting an extra one. It's that. And we can think about it a little bit different.
Yeah. And I think that that's what it is. The reauthoring of your story.
Yes.
Because if we use the street analogy, right? Uh, and I love that, right? Because I'm just thinking about the brain and how awareness does create the new neural pathways, right? And it's just like how often do you go down there that creates the behaviors that go with it. And
Hmm.
so, yes, I think it's not looking at it from an all or nothing, good or bad, right? E- Even if I'm operating from the old, right, it is being able to say, not good or bad, but is it the best? Is
Hmm.
this the best version of myself? When I go off on everybody, because everybody ain't, they got dishes in the sink and I just cleaned up the house, and like I can do that, and sometimes I do, right?
Hmm.
But instead of being hard on myself and be like, that you was that the best way to do it? Right? What was another option? And I think that
Mm.
what we don't realize is just that conversation. We're looking for something to do, but the acknowledgement in the moment. Right. Usually we catch it in the behavior. It's usually when we showing up in that behavior, whatever the behavior is. When we can catch it in the behavior, what we're doing is we are creating a new narrative, right? But it's just like building this community, like this new community, right? It takes, you got to keep going back to it, right, to do the work so that we begin to see the foundation being put up. And now we see the, okay, I don't know nothing about building houses, so I'm not going to even try, but y'all get what I'm talking about,
It
right?
take a minute. It's a lot of
Yeah,
parts.
it takes a
Yeah.
minute, it
Yeah.
take a minute, right? But we're not judging it, and it's the judgment that keeps us stuck in the story. And then
Hmm.
when we talk about trauma, I want to make sure I say this, because I like to use the definition of trauma is anything that changes the way that you see yourself, you see other people, and you see the world, right?
Hmm.
So I like to say big T trauma, little T trauma, right? And big T trauma are those big things. And so I think a lot of times people think about like nothing big has happened to me. Like I haven't experienced any traumas like that. But we could be talking about something like bullying is coming up for me, right? Maybe you in the fourth grade and somebody says something about it, and it just changes the way you see yourself, right?
Hmm.
Or um, maybe, I mean, we are experiencing traumas on if you in a relationship
Of any
of
sort.
any kind, a work relationship, right? The time when
Yes.
your supervisor, right, said that you wouldn't good, like the time then you created a rule that said, oh, okay, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
That part.
Trauma.
That
It's
what you
the
just said.
rules.
Mhm.
Yes, it is the rules that we create out of our experience of people. That's what we talk about when we talk about trauma. And so I want to say that because I think a lot of people are saying, like, they discount how these encounters have have changed the story, right? And research shows that trauma changes the structure of the brain. And so now
Mhm.
here we are, like you said, one, we are operating unaware. And then when we get the awareness, it's like, okay, what do I do? And we do the eradication, the all or nothing. This is
Mhm.
bad. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to do this, right? Get rid of it. And not realizing, but wait a minute, let's
Honor.
honor this belief, this rule that kept you safe,
Man.
that kept you here, that
Mhm.
kept you operating. Let's honor it. And now
Mhm.
let's look at it and say, how can we use it so it's beneficial,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
th- that's how we balance it, and that's how we right. And I'm not operating out of it because I want people to know that I'm adequate enough, right?
There you go.
I just like you said, it gives me confidence because I'm like, oh yeah, problem solver. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
But if I can't solve it, I ain't tripping. I'm a failure. I'm like there's no anxiety tied to it, no frustration because I also have the option of saying, hey, I need some assistance
That
over
part.
here. Can somebody help me? Right. And so I think that for me in my life, um, that's where the principles come in, right? Um, and that is where my relationship with God comes in. So one, like God has kind of had to like clear everything and be like, hey, first of all, come here.
Mhm.
I need you to trust me. Because if you
Mm.
don't trust me when I tell you to do something, you're gonna be questioning it, right?
Mhm.
And I need you to understand that I already thank you enough. I already think you are fearfully and wonderfully made. I
Mhm.
made you. So
Mhm.
I don't need you to prove anything to me. Right. And so I think that when I read the book of Nehemiah, what I love about the character, and you gave me this tip, like read it as if um like like how can I relate to this person? Read it as like it's just a
Mhm.
story in a book and you like, oh man, I can relate to this, this person.
Mhm.
And what I love about Nehemiah is his assurance came from his dependence
Oh God.
on God, and he
Yeah.
knew who he was.
Mhm.
Right? There are some stories in the Bible where people question, like, "Why me, God? You sending me?" You know, no, he had a response to his people being in a dire situation. He had an emotional response. He didn't move out of emotions, right? He went to God. He went to prayer, and so it's just a lot of those principles that I'm trying to apply to my
Mm.
life. And when I can live in it space, and I'm saying it, but it's daily work. And I have to choose it. Those are those options because
Yeah,
I
I
have
have
to
to.
choose it daily. I have to choose it minute by minute. But what this week taught me is when the frustration is there for me. Maybe it's the anxiety for somebody else. Maybe it's the depression for somebody else. I got to go back to what am I telling myself? What
Mhm.
story am I
The
living as if
story.
it is true?
Yes, that's
That's
so
where the
amazing.
pain. If I can understand my pain story, right? We talk about love languages, but what is my pain language? What does my
Mm.
pain tell me? And I think that
Mm.
if I'm when I'm operating in that, and it's not and I want to say this too, right? Because I know we're saying a lot. Um, and I'm living, right? So I'm not always like, oh my God, what am I? But I am being intentional,
Mhm.
right? Like I am being, I create space in my life
Mhm.
where I'm like, okay, let me journal, like let me, right? Because at the end of the week or at the end of the month, sometimes at the end of the month, right? if at the end of the month I'm frustrated, I can go back and I'm like, okay, what is okay? Like, look at the story I've been telling myself this month.
There it is.
Look at the narrative. Like, I've been a victim of everything this month, or I've been like,
Yeah.
or some, and I see growth also as well. And so I got to take that too, because I'm like, yeah, I did hard things, and you know what? I wasn't even complaining about it. Like, I wasn't saying like it's always something, and it's like no, like I okay, right, and I feel it. Like I feel peace, and I feel confident, and so the
Hmm.
story that I'm telling myself lends itself to that. And so I
Hmm.
know I said a lot, but last I
That's
want to
good.
go to the community. Um, and how important community is in this journey because we will hop in and try to do it alone.
Yes.
So I want you to speak to that if you don't mind.
Yes. Shoot. I mean, like I said, your community is kind of your mirror. Like we don't really see ourselves the way other people can see us, or you don't see your struggles until you can identify them in other people. I feel like that's what community, not only that, because they're your mirror, but they're also your support. Because you guys identify with the same struggles, there's this level of support that you get from each other. There's this understanding. And all of us, the truth is everybody just want to be understood. Like at the end of the day, I just want you to understand what's going on. And some of the, you talk to your friends and your family and you're talking to other folks, and it's just like for some reason you're not getting what I'm trying to say. Like there's a part of this, so you find yourself getting, I know for me, I would get really frustrated. Like I'm trying to explain to you what I'm feeling, and because you're not there or you're projecting your experience onto me, we're not getting anywhere, and I still feel empty. And it was not just getting in communities, but getting in the right communities for the season for which you find yourself. Because once I got into the communities of people who could understand what I was going through, there's a peace that comes about you because you don't feel like you're alone. And I feel like that's another need that all human beings have, is this
Yes,
need to have. God created
connection.
us for community. He needed us to be connected. So first off, let me normalize this. It is not abnormal for you to want people around you, because he created us for community. His greatest resources is human beings. So he wanted us to be connected in some way. But it's not just connection, because you can connect to anybody.
And we do.
Yeah, you can connect to any. Yeah, it's a person. I'll connect to this one. But getting in the right communities for me has been so groundbreaking, because one, I can see me in the mirror. And what I mean by seeing me is the stuff I didn't want to see. Like it's just like I don't want to identify that. But not only that, it gives me the ability to not only help myself, but help other people in the community once we can identify what is happening with us and for us. There's also limited judgment in a community of people who dealing with the same stuff. Like, how could you judge me if me and you sitting in the same seat? You
Yeah.
know, there's not a whole lot of, girl, this is what you need to do in the community, because the reason why we all in the community is because we kind of like don't know what we're supposed to do. So we all in there like, hey, so what do um, what you feeling? This is what I'm feeling. We need to get some support here. That's what I found in the community. It's the most important thing. It's the thing that, because always, what I think I used to tell my son this. He's like, if you're the only one advising you, what new information do you have to get yourself out of a situation that you're in? If you're the only one advising you, if it's just you ain't talking to nobody, and if you're the only one helping you, it's almost like going to the gym without any direction on what you should do when you get there and no trainer to guide you. So you know how you walk in the gym and you're like, there's a lot of equipment here. I know if I get on one of these things, it's gonna make me sweat. I don't really know which one. So you just go jump on something, and you might do a little bit of that, and you're like, there's like 1,500 machines in here. I'm gonna try this.
Or those videos, when you see somebody using it wrong and they
Yeah,
just like
it's and it's all the difference in the world when you set up a session with a trainer and you tell that trainer, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And that trainer shows you Okay, so this is the equipment that you can use in order to get to that, you know. And so now you ain't walking in the gym all, I don't know what to do. It's like, I now know that I can do this and I can do this and I can create results. Another thing that a trainer does, we always talk about like quantum leaps. The trainer pushes you beyond the limits that you can push yourself. So when you go in, like if I'm running at a 4.8, I can just trolley on a 4.8 on the treadmill, like I'm good. The trainer would say, you could do 5.5. Boop, 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 boop. What does that do? It presses me, pushes me a little bit harder, but I excel quicker because I'm being pushed past the limit that I've set for myself. That's what I see when
With
it
the
comes
proper um, techniques.
with the
Because
proper techniques.
with
Because
the
the trainer's
proper,
gonna tell you, they're gonna be like, that's not you running wrong. Like if you just straighten your hands, the trainer does a lot for you in the gym that kind of it creates this, I'm doing it the right way. I'm being pushed past the limits that I've set for myself. Therefore, my growth have excelled. Like I feel like that's what community does for you. Can you go somewhere by yourself? Yeah, you can go far. You can go pretty far by yourself. But when you got community that's with you, that's walking in this thing with you, it's like this accelerated move because you always have this support behind you that's pushing you past your limits, helping you get up when you fall. I'm trying to think that one scripture just came to my mind about where two or three are gathered. Maybe that's the one
yes,
I was thinking about.
oh, the
Um,
the body. You know where it's. I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Look,
we
you
need
know
all the
what I'm
body
talking about.
parts. I know which one
Yes,
you're talking about. Like
and
everybody
I can.
need, yeah, you need all your body parts in order for you to do. And the body is human beings. All of us are humans.
Yes,
We all serve a purpose, and God created it that way. No one person has everything. You need somebody for something in order to be your best self. You need a community of people in order to grow. And God created even His own body that way. So that's what I would say about community. We'll be better about putting on scriptures because that was just like right off the top. I'm gonna have to memorize some of those.
yes. I'm like, we'll put that in. We gonna put that in the description. Like,
We'll
we'll
put it
put
in
it
the
in there.
description. We'll
We'll
let y'all
find it
know
and
what
put it
scripture
in
we're talking about.
there.
But yeah, that's what it is for me. So yeah, community has been really good. Just kind of holding up that mirror and saying, this is what you look like outside of your body. These are the things that you struggle, or these are the things you've overcome. You
Yes,
were in that same place that she in or he in, and this is what you're doing now. And now I can give advice to my sisters and brothers and say, yeah, I remember feeling that way, and this is what I did to try to overcome that, or this is how I work. And you giving them, what am I giving them? Options.
yes,
Anytime I give them
yes,
advice that, and I'm giving them options with results because I'm saying, this is what I chose. And as a result of choosing that, this is what I got. And now you got an option. You can stay, you can wrestle with it, or you can choose this way. You can try it, take what you like, leave the rest. If it's not something that you feel like you can do, don't feel pressured. But I'm giving you an option. And that's really all we
yes.
can do. So
And I'm gonna walk. Yeah, and then I'm gonna walk with you,
walk
right?
with you.
And I'll walk with you. And so, what great. This is what like I love this discussion. And so many nuggets. Um, and so I'm just trying to think of the takeaways. And
Mm.
one is just what story, like who are you right
Hmm.
now, today,
Today.
and what story? If you like her or him, if you don't, what story are you telling yourself that is supporting that?
Hmm.
Um, because you have the ability in your awareness, right? And when you bring on your community,
Hmm.
right, to begin to re-author your life. I say that a lot of us have people who have written in our story without permission.
Ooh, I love it.
Right? And so this chapter of our life, we get to decide what characters we allow to come into the next scene, what behaviors, what story. We get to recreate the story. We get to reauthor our
Yes.
lives. And then the community, right? So the story helps you understand one, just being aware, why am I stuck? So
Hmm.
what limiting belief, what self-limiting belief am I operating in? Is it the all or nothing? And I created just like this little workbook, and I will put that attach that I'll attach it for free, where you can start to look at like what are these beliefs, what beliefs have been birthed
Mhm.
from me trying to survive and me trying to be loved and me trying to
Mhm.
get safe. And then the community, right? Attaching yourself to a community. And I know that we wrapping up this season
Mhm.
um, of letting go with grace. But I feel in my spirit in this moment, the season two, um, I want to be able to offer community,
Mhm.
right? Because it's one thing to listen, but it's another thing to get in a community and do life with other people. And so
Mhm.
I'm just saying this. So,
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you, Doc. I hear you.
um, but I do. I want to offer community so that you are able to do life with other people who, one, have the mirror, right? And we're going to tell you the truth and we're going to get some awareness. So we're going to do it in love.
Mhm.
And then get you some tools, right? So that you can learn how to be,
Mhm.
right? And become and giving yourself grace and becoming and understanding that this is not a sprint. This is absolutely a marathon.
It's a marathon.
It
Mhm.
is a marathon. So,
Yeah.
your challenge this week is why are you stuck? What is the story? Why are you in so much pain?
Mhm.
Why? Why does it keep coming back up? You done bought the new thing. You done did the new. Like, why are you? What is your story? Why are you stuck?
Mhm.
And that's how I would like to challenge you. Of course, you got
That's
any last
good.
word?
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I'm going to add as a takeaway is removing the desire to eradicate your trauma
Mm,
and changing the narrative and creating it as more of a superpower when balanced with new options rather than
yes.
trying to eliminate a part of yourself because that's it's impossible to eliminate who you are. So embracing or being is a part of just embracing the fact that you had trauma. You have trauma. Everybody does. Normalize it. But then utilizing it as a superpower coupled with brand new options so that you have
Yeah.
choices. And with those choices, you have confidence because you're not stuck.
That's some good
So
stuff. Mm-mm-mm.
that's
That
what
was
I would
good.
add. That's what I'd add.
All right. So we like to ask you, are you ready to let it go?
Are you ready? Are you ready? See them smiles when we say that?
All right, y'all have a good one, and we will see you
Yes.
season two.
Season two coming. Can't wait to see y'all. It's gonna be community. We're gonna be live. Yes.
Yes,
All right.
y'all have a good one.
I got.